Number one or two are business related. You got to focus on the core, and you got to have appropriate diversification. Now, in response to that, you must design the network, and we talked about three things. You've got to go from what's today considered full service to what I call best service in delivery. You've got to design an appropriate retail network, and you've got to optimize the physical sorting network.
What's the most challenging of those 5 principles for some of the posts that you deal with on a regular basis?
Yeah. I would say there's two things. On the business side, the realization that the mail is still the most profitable segment, and they must take good care of that. And then when they get into new services, make sure that they are competitive and they have brand permission from the customers to get in those areas. From an internal, obviously, any change in the delivery standards, which is crucial for the postal world, is going to be the most challenging from a customer relationship and regulatory point of view.
I mean, would your advice be that to the posts out there that they should rather focus on adapting or transforming their operations? There have been recently a lot of talk about, a lot of discussions on these two sides of the same coin, if you like.
The better word is evolution, because you have to take what you have and transform it. There's no money and no time to tear it all apart and build it up. So I think adaptation in some areas, transformation in some more radical ones, but in general evolution from what you have now to what you need to become. But it has to be done more quickly than in the past.
In terms of business models which are trying to provide this future postal service or the post of the future, is there anything exciting out there that you've seen already which really made you sit up and take notice?
Well, I would say that there's some things that have matured to a point that they're really very viable things. For example, anything in automated self-service, they've really made a lot of progress. We have very modular machines, small machines, machines where the cost has gone down, and it's a real viable alternative to lower the delivery cost and give the customer more convenience. So that's number one. The other area in which the posts really have this secret advantage that have never been taken care of is the security of the electronic services. More products and innovation out there to make electronic services secure. The post already has the trusted brand. If they can couple that with good technology, they should be able to offer secure services. And the third area, I will say there's a lot of companies offering very good capabilities to help the posts optimize their network.
What kind of challenges do posts face when they try to grapple with the technology that is required, the use of technology that's required for them to really modernize and to look ahead?
I would say that obviously once they get the hurdle of being able to finance it, which is not a small hurdle for many posts, is really the retraining of labor force, because they're going to need new capabilities to maintain and service this technology. And so I think training is a component that every supplier in the industry has to be able to offer to be competitive.
What issues do posts face when they are trying to retrain their staff to deal with the changing landscape?
Well, I would say there's a structural issue and a practical issue. The structural one is that in some cases the labor is locked into agreements about what work they do and how they do it. And I think the labor in general is willing to learn, willing to be retrained, but sometimes their own agreements may be constraining them. So obviously that's something that labor needs to look at. How do they increase their skills as opposed to keep doing the same thing? And the practical one is obviously to train people, you need to take them out of the operations. And the posts are trying to get very lean. So there's not a lot of spare time. So the question is, how do you cycle people through a training program and keep the companies running?
When we look again at the principles of designing the future postal network once again, what are posts already doing well?
Obviously, posts are doing well in increasing the service level and the reliability of the service. In some cases, I argue that they're already there and they're offering more service than the recipients really want. And so the question is, how do you step back from that and saying the service is good enough, and now we need to listen more to the recipient to see what's an appropriate level of service? Because I think we'll find that the recipient is happy with less frequent delivery or delivery in different forms that adds more value. That doesn't mean keeping doing more of the same thing. So I think that that's a capability that has to be leveraged, but I don't think we need to continue to improve the service level.
Why is it that the recipient hasn't really been a stakeholder in this dialogue up until now?
Well, probably historically, because the post, like many of the telecom companies, are founded on the economic model of sender keeps all. The mailer pays the rate, not the recipient. And as some economists would say, this is a market in which the two sides really should blend their requirements. But I think the realization is there now that if you give the recipient choice and control, the recipient will choose wisely. They're not going to eliminate the mail, but they will say which mail is more valuable, and maybe there's an opportunity to have higher prices for more valuable mail and better delivery than for mass mail. And I think that that benefits everyone.
Okay, on a final note, is there anything you'd like to add about a particularly innovative business model or trend that you've seen in recent times?
I think in the retail area, we've done some stabs at trying to be consistent with what the modern companies try to do in retail, but still to a large extent we tend to replicate what we had before. So I talked today about the concept of having a flagship store on Times Square, for example, the most visited location in the world. Apple is there, Hershey Chocolates is there, Disney is there. Well, why not the Post? They could have a very entertaining, interactive store that would make money and draw a lot of visitors and build brand. And I think the Post need to be bolder in thinking about their image and do these kinds of things.